Hey, and welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast, the show where we dive deep into strategies behind starting and building consistently profitable businesses. Whether you're a founder, a leader, or just a curious dreamer starting to dream, this podcast is your toolkit for making profit a default setting, not a lucky outcome. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton. Today, my guest is Jon Meeks. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks.
So when we reconnected, I think it had been 2004, 2005, where we first connected?
Probably, yes.
So we've known each other for a while. Why don't you take 2 or 3 minutes, introduce yourself as a person to the people that are listening?
Okay, my name's Jon Meeks. Matt and I did meet around 2005. I had, at that time, I had a mortgage company called Prime Rate Financial Services and an insurance agency. At that time, it was called the John Harrington Agency. It's Jon Meeks Agency now. Harrington is my mother's maiden name. I've got a couple degrees from Purdue, and I've always strived to be my own boss, make my own schedule, kind of walk to the beat of my own drummer, so to speak.
All right.
People would say that I just have an extreme case of ADD. So
that is possible. That is possible. So the way that we got back in touch, though, was I saw an announcement that you won an award with your current insurance company. So tell us a little bit. Let's start there, and then we'll go backwards.
Okay. Yeah, I had won the Agent of the Year for Farmers Insurance here in Indiana. It was funny because when I went to Hilton Head for a big farmers event called Toppers Club last year, we had all these new agents around there, and it was my first Toppers Club, and I was sitting at the table with the president of Farmers Insurance and a couple of top agents in other states, and I was the oldest person at the table, and they said, "So, this is your first Toppers Club?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Oh, when did you start your agency?" I said, 1999. They went, "What?" I said, "Yeah, 1999. They said, "Well, it's one thing for somebody to come out of the gate and be strong, but it's another thing for somebody to reinvent themselves after 24 years." I said, "Yeah, well, I've had a long road. That's the way it works. You know what? I didn't tell them, hey, I did 10 million in mortgages. I did 7 million in construction. Insurance was nice to do, but not neat to do,
Right. So let's kind of go back. So obviously the end of the story is you're killing it at insurance.
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah. But let's kind of back up. So 1999, at that point, tell us a little bit about, you started the insurance company, but you had a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
I did. In 1999, I had a tanning salon. It's kind of a long story about that. And then I also had a mortgage company, and the mortgage company was doing very well. And I was going to team up with an insurance agent. And then I thought, well, I think I can just do this myself. So I got insurance license, read a couple books, and got appointed as an agent. And I thought insurance would be a good offering for at that time it was called Prime Rate Financial Services, so that I could help obtain and finance somebody's assets and help protect them. And then in 2001, that led to me getting my Series 6 and 63 investment license. So the Prime Rate Financial Services, I said, hey, I can help you obtain assets. I can help you protect those assets, and I can help you grow those assets. And, which later led to a construction company, so I can fix your assets too. So.
All right. So let's go back. So you kind of threw out the tanning salon.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
The tanning salon was kind of funny. I got one of my degrees from Purdue was in electrical engineering technology, and worked as an engineer. And I didn't really fit the mold of the corporate world, you know. And so I quit in the early '90s and went back to college. And I thought, well, what, for my free time, I thought, well, I'll start fixing tanning beds because my sister ran a tanning salon, and she would call me up, hey, can you fix this bed? Can you fix that bed? And it was just bulbs and ballasts. And then I found out there's nobody in the state fixing tanning beds, and tanning beds were huge in the early '90s, you know. And so I started a company called Nighttime Tans, where I would drive around and I would charge a service call and hourly rate, and I got to choose whatever those were. And I just messed with bulbs and ballasts and basic relays and would fix people's tanning beds and get them up and going again. And then that way I was getting my hair cut, and they said, "Well, John, we'll rent you this little place back here for $125 a month if you want to start a tanning salon." So I cashed in my 401k through Delco and put 3 beds on a credit card, built the inside of this little salon, and had a desk and a phone book, and started calling people out of the phone book. So that was kind of fun
And,
because I stutter, and so I would be telemarketing for a tanning salon called Intense Tan, and when you stutter, it's more like, "Yeah, I'm calling about in Intense Tan." They'd say, "What? You're a stuttering telemarketer for a tanning salon?" I'd be like, "Hey, that broke guy. Hey, I'm just not any tanning salon. It's Intense Tan. Come on." So that's how I started.
all right. So you start by fixing tanning beds. You end up owning a tanning salon,
Yeah,
and the next logical step is to start a mortgage company.
it was. I had a customer come in and we're sitting there just going back and forth, and he said, "Hey, John, I'm getting ready to start a mortgage company, and I'm looking for a partner. You want to partner up on this?" And through my ignorance, I said, "Sure." And I didn't know anything about mortgages, so at that time, I think my browser might have been Netscape, and the dial-up was AOL, but there was still stuff online. So I downloaded all the mortgage terms and definitions. I mean, the math isn't hard; it's all ratios. And I thought, well, if I can learn to talk the talk, then I'll walk the walk. I can do the math. And so,
Yep.
whew, mortgage company was born.
And so how long did you run the mortgage company?
The mortgage company was up to about 2008. Um, the particular venture I went in with him lasted for about a year. I mean, we just made a lot of money and a lot of bad decisions. And I started the Prime Rate Financial Services in '97, I think it was, and again that went to 2008, 2005 when you and I met. The writing was kind of on the wall, so I was. There's a rule that you can't throw money at a problem. I didn't know that rule in 2005 till I met you, and I threw a lot of money at a problem, and and through the industry. I mean, the entire industry was changing in 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. Through a couple of mergers and this and that. I saw the writing on the wall. So in 2006, I started a construction company, and the construction company was kind of born out of. I had a buddy of mine come back from Alabama who had a construction company that I helped start back in '92. And I said, "Hey, let's revive this thing because I'm selling people money for home improvements, and without a contractor. So let's sell them home improvements, and then once I improve their house, I can insure it." So I'm a construction company.
All right. So let's see. So you start fixing tanning beds, you buy a tanning salon. The next logical thing is you start the mortgage company. The mortgage company, grows, it does pretty well. Um, but really, you know, around 2006, 2007, you start a construction company.
Yeah,
And all the time you got this insurance thing running in the background from 99 on.
yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just kind
yeah,
of bubbling along.
yeah, yeah. I would just delegate everything out. Really, um, I I had a guy, which I introduced you to, got five call, and he kind of ran the insurance side of things, and I just walked to the beat of my own drum, so to speak. I mean, I would get in there and sell sometimes. I'd have district managers going, John, come on, you're the best salesman, but you're not selling anything. I'm like, well, you got to look at the net. I can sell a $20,000, construction job and make 6 or 8 on it. And I sell a $2,000 homeowner's insurance policy and make, $200. I said,
Right.
and I got babysitting that homeowner policy for a year, and then beg them not to leave, well,
Yeah.
so that was kind of my mentality there. But how I actually switched is I was talking to, one of the more successful agents out there, and I was scratching my head. I said, you can do $120,000 a month income in insurance? He goes, yeah, that's a low month, John. I said, what? I said, at $200, I did. He goes, John, when you go in to build a house or build somebody's room addition, do you get the contract signed and then go buy the materials and then show up at the house and start nailing boards together? I said, no. I said, I have a framer, our framing crew. I have an electrician crew. I get somebody from the HVAC. I get somebody for the plumbing. I said, I try to, spread out the task to the people who are, good and experienced in that field. He goes, well, just build your insurance company like that. So, you can't see the forest amongst the trees. No, I was focused on the trees, right, instead of the forest. And that's a huge problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have today. So, they get bogged down by pixels, as you and I would say, or they get
Yeah.
bogged down by the minutia of what it takes without keeping their 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 focus on the vision. And when you lose the overall vision and start focusing on the problems, then what you get back are more problems. But
Right.
you keep focused on the vision, and the path will be left. The path will show its way, even if it's not the path that you thought you were going to go on. So
So it's interesting because, normally in these episodes, I'd ask like, why did you start the business and did you have a passion for it? But you've been such a serial, you've always had stuff going on. There's, it's obvious you started the businesses because you wanted to do your own thing your own way.
yeah,
And in your case, then the real question is, you had the insurance company sitting around
yeah,
and in 1999, really through 2024,
pretty much.
when the penny dropped and you're like, wait a minute, I can do this differently.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so you've already so there's a book by a guy named Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How. And what it describes is, business owners pick the outcome they want. And rather than saying, here's how I'm going to do it, going out and finding somebody and saying, hey, can you accomplish this?
yeah,
Right. Which
yeah,
is really what that agent described you as: find somebody that can do the work, let them do what they're good at, and then find the next thing that needs done and find somebody to do that.
yeah.
So other than, I guess, other than understanding that the way to grow your agency was really getting other people involved in it, what other things um, did you learn, from really 1999 to 2026 that put you in that top performer club?
Well, I learned that if you share your goals and passions with people, most people want to see you succeed. Okay. It's the birdcage theory, right?
Yep,
You familiar with that?
I am.
Tell me about it.
Put up a bird cage, don't have a bird in it, just let everybody see it in the office. People are going to start asking where the bird is,
Right. And
right?
eventually somebody's going to put a damn bird in that cage because
Just to help you out.
they want to help you succeed, you
Yes.
know? And so, with the birdcage theory in mind, if you're constantly, I mean, you have to be passionate about it, but you're constantly telling people what your goal is, what your aspirations are, and 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 have a genuine sense of curiosity about other people and what their goals and aspirations are. They'll help you, and you'll be empowered by helping them achieve their goals and aspirations. And so, it's everything comes around, right? It's just I've seen so many people lose focus and start focusing on problems as opposed to solutions. I've seen so many people lose their way and 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 not focus on why they came into business in the first place. And 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 so it's very telling. Like you had me list some books, and I could have listed 1,000 different books. I mean, I have people saying, why do you have all these books in your house?" Well, because I, I can pick one up and pull, whether it be Computers for Dummies, or whether it be something by Stephen Covey, or whether it be something by John Maxwell, or whether it be something by, Donald Trump. I have those resources at hand, and I use them all the time. I said I'm a serial bookmarker, right? It's very hard to finish something once I get what I need out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so yeah, I mean, just keeping your mind on the goal, and not wavering from that, and you get other people to help you achieve your goal. Yeah, somebody's going to put a bird in the cage.
So one of the big questions is, the classic starting a business advice is you got to have a well-written and clearly laid out strategic plan. You got to have 6 months of savings, and you got to have a clear understanding of what clients will pay for what you are trying to sell, right? And so I'm listening to your story, and I think there are 4 or 5 businesses that you started.
I didn't have any
For
of
those
that.
4 or 5 businesses, do you have any of those?
No, man, I just had a vision and a dream. I mean, like you just started out with, was I purchased a tanning salon? No, I didn't purchase a tanning salon. I built one. I put
Right.
3 beds on a credit card and built walls around them, and then called people out of the phone book. I had no idea how I was going to get customers. It's sort of like the Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. Well, I
Yep.
believed that and got hit in the face. Oh well, I have to do something. I have to. Oh, there's this thing called, I was an engineer and marketing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I just, let me fix something. Let me solve somebody else's problem. I got to talk somebody into tanning their body. I mean, it was just a paradigm shift, but it was one that I was up for.
All right. So you started with none of that. By the way, at 180 some episodes, there's been one person that was like, "Oh yeah, I had all 3 of those." Everybody else is like, "Yeah, I didn't
You
have
know,
any of that. It was just time to go."
It's funny you say that, because when I started the tanning salon, I was finishing up the organizational leadership degree, and so I had to take I had to take 21 hours one semester, and I had to do a summer course. And the summer course that I did was entrepreneurship, and I had to create a business plan. I happened to create it on a business that I had just started, right? And out of those 21 hours within that semester, and I was working 70 hours a week. I was the only my only employee. The only um, class I got to be in was entrepreneurship because my business plan wasn't, real clear. I was like, well, I said, it's right down the street. What do you mean, give me a B? I started it.
It's running.
It's running. I mean, what, you gonna give me a B for a typo? Are you kidding me? And as us, I mean, if there's an A to be had, hell, that's what we want. I mean,
Yeah.
you go get I have a whole class full of people who just write down a dream or something they come up with online, and it's running.
Yeah.
you know
Well, I mean, the dude that started FedEx, I think he got a C for his plan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But see, teachers teach for a reason.
yes.
If you can't do, you teach, right?
Well, that's the rumor.
That's the
That's the
rumor.
rumor.
So
So, and the funny thing is, there is value in a plan later because, as
there
you
is.
proved, when
There is.
you went from, you know, 1999 to 2023, you probably just bumped along with the insurance and didn't really put any time into it. But as soon as you put time and focus in it, suddenly you're a high performer.
Yeah, well, I got with somebody in 2018. He was we were both kind of beat up at that time from on the insurance side. He got his district manager role taken from him. Now he's an ASL. Difference between a district manager and an area sales leader is one has a fixed salary and they're strictly corporate, and district manager is quote self-employed but still has to. So anyhow, his income was cut by about half, and he come in, and I never met him, and he sat down, and I said, "Oh, you're from Farmers Corporate, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so you're going to come in here and tell me to sell life insurance or some crap like that, right? Yeah, and that." And I mean, we about went to fisticuffs. And then he started looking at the books on my shelf, and he happened to see Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, that I was reading again. That is one book that I've read from front to back.
It's a good
And
book.
it is, and so we started talking about different books and different philosophies, and got a friendship. They would come in and say, hey, just for kicks and giggles, let's start a double club. Everybody is just doing lackluster. The insurance, let's try to double your production from one month over another. No pressure. Let's just find different ways to do it. So I did that, and then I hired what's called a protege in 2019, and graduated her out of the first person in Indiana to graduate out of protege, and then went through a couple, terrible hires, bad employees. And then in 2021, I actually hired a person um, who was all in. I mean, she had just lost her career because of an injury, and she had no experience in anything. And I said, "Well, here, let me take you under my wing real quick, and let's do this." And so we doubled each year to where we're now number one.
That that
Fun stuff.
is, yeah. But
It's not how
the
good you
funny
are. It's not how good you are. It's how good you are at surrounding yourself with competent people.
that well, that's the
That's
so it
the
really
that's the thing.
the thing that kind of swims in the background for your whole story is your relative success and failure in everything has been about the people that you were involved in.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't blame a person for your failure, right? Because the failure
Right.
goes on you. But you can certainly reward people for your added success and things like that. So,
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think, the big lesson, because you had partners the whole way through, but until you really found the guy from Farmers that wanted to build something with you,
yeah,
and then somebody that wanted to work in your agency, and then, you know,
yeah.
because you had all the tools. If 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 you had so we had this conversation earlier, before we started recording, and the conversation was, what advice would you give somebody who asks you what they need to know to go into business? And you and I agreed, somebody that asks you about that is the wrong person to go into business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They nothing do it, but to do it. I mean, you can teach them how to do a plan. You can teach them accounting. You can teach them HR. But you can't teach passion.
Right.
You know, and it. And everybody wants to make their own rules. Everybody wants to go in business for themselves. Everybody thinks they can do it until they're in charge of HR, until they're in charge of accounting, until they're in charge of all the different. I mean, going in business doesn't mean you work less. Going in business initially, I mean, it's 24/7, right? I mean, until you can find the people that that you can sell on your dream and vision and make them think, not make them think, but because there's no manipulation in it, but have buy-in that, you know, by me helping you achieve your goals, I'm going to achieve all of my financial goals. I
Right.
mean, you show them on the road to success how how they're going to be better built up. I have a rule on my board right here, and I got the rule from a very wise man, and it says you're either part of your own plan or part of someone else's. And the reason that rule was up there is because I was just talking to an entrepreneur from Anderson University, and I mean this kid just got the Trailblazer Award from the NCAA for 2026. I mean he's a highly intelligent person. So I was in here talking to him, and we're talking about working out, exercise. I try to start every morning with that, and he goes, "Well, I fell off for a while because I had, this guy who came up with a routine, and we had a system, and it just kind of fell to the wayside." I said, "Well, why don't you just walk in the gym and and work out?" I said, "Well, I like to have a structure, and I like to have a plan put in front of me." I said, "Listen, when I decided to get back in the gym, I had no idea what I was going to do. Well, I walked in there and I said, okay, I'm going to work on chest and shoulders today. Then I looked around at the machines that could help me accomplish that goal, and I just went to them without a plan, without a. I said, still today, when I walk into the gym, I'm not sure what machines I'm going to use. I just know what my overall goal is. And then as I walk around, I find a way to accomplish the goal. I mean, you're either part of your own plan or you're part of someone else's. And if someone else has to come up with the plan for you, and someone else has to it takes their plan to motivate you to get somewhere. I mean, it's not going to work, and it's like that self-employment.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, we and I don't think we had this when we worked together, but one of the things we teach is the first role of a leader is recruiting.
Yeah,
And recruiting
yeah,
is selling your vision to somebody that will work with you
yeah.
and letting them see how their vision fits into your vision, and their work's important.
It
So it doesn't
is.
matter what position they are in a company, they have to have something they're trying to accomplish. And you have to agree that what they're trying to accomplish helps you accomplish what you're accomplishing.
It is the hardest part
Yes.
of being an entrepreneur. I don't care who you are because it's one thing to sell them up front on the dream and the vision. But then if you don't have the processes, systems, the technology, number one, you have to take every excuse away from them that they can use to fail. And then you have to continue to motivate them and encourage them to, not lose sight of why they were initially hired. And that is very difficult because you can sell somebody on the dream, but again, you know you can't teach passion. And so,
Right.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for, like, Elon Musks or the Bill Gates or the people, both of these guys' greatest accomplishment isn't Microsoft or isn't SpaceX or isn't Tesla. I mean, their greatest accomplishment is they've created more millionaires than
Yeah.
anybody in history.
Yep.
I mean, and nobody looks at that. They look at, oh, their net worth, but no, they have created more wealth under them than any governmental agency, any insurance company,
Anything.
anybody in history,
Yes.
you know. And so I have a tremendous amount of admiration for them for how they've helped other people succeed. It's not about your success. It's about how you can help other people succeed. And in recruiting, I mean, they're masters. I mean, they're so good at it when they have people begging to come work for them,
Yep.
right? But
Yep. So let me ask you a question. So, it's been 30 minutes already. Um,
It has. We can do this for a couple hours, Matt. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, tomorrow I'm opening up my business and there's a million things I could do, what would be the thing that you would tell them their first priority is when they open the business?
Sell, 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 sell yourself, sell your vision, sell your dream, communicate it with people, communicate it with everybody, post, see how you can help people, put yourself out there and sell, sell, sell. Because I don't care who you're talking to, whether you're talking to your wife, whether you're talking to the IRS, whether you're talking to a customer, whether you're talking to an employee, it's all a sell. It's all a sell. I mean, when I'm talking at parent-teacher conferences with my kid, it's a sell.
Yep.
And you have to be in that mindset to know that, listen, in order for, and every sale has to result in a win-win-win situation. It's got to be a win for you. It's got to be a win for them. It's got to be a win for the ultimate company. And so you have to have the mentality and the education and the structure in order to structure your sale correctly to where everybody wins. Because if there's a loser in your sale, then everybody loses. So sell. That's my main advice. Know how to communicate.
That is, and so one of my earliest guests, a lady named Lorraine Ball, who you may know, her advice was, you're not in the business you think you are until you're done selling.
Right. I mean, you're not. If you're done selling, you're not in business anymore. Flat out.
You
you're
got to
dead.
go.
You're dead.
You got to go sell it to do it. So I think that's a good spot to wrap up. So, Jon, thanks for being a great guest.
Hey, man, I certainly hope I made you proud, brother.
You did.
I mean,
and hey, we're going to have show notes. Anybody wants to learn about Jon, his businesses, or how to get in touch with him, you can go to defaultprofitable.com, look up the episode. There'll be show notes there. If you're a listener, you like what you're hearing, through ways you can help, leave a review, hit subscribe, share an episode. We'll be back next week. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.